There are now questions regarding what Elon Musk is attempting to do with Twitter. Some of the more unusual moves Musk has made with the social media platform include Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announcing his presidency on Twitter this week. Tucker Carlson plans on hosting a show. No date has been set. And Ben Shapiro's media company, The Daily Wire, is planning to air podcasts on Twitter starting next Tuesday. Joining us now, Colby Hall, NewsNation's media analyst. Colby, thanks so much for being here. So some reports are saying that these moves point to Elon Musk trying to replace Fox News media mogul Rupert Murdoch. Is there any basis to that theory?
I mean, there is and there isn't. Mike Allen and Sarah Fisher at Axios wrote a story saying that basically Musk is aiming to be the next Rupert Murdoch. And Rupert Murdoch has built this massive and very powerful political media enterprise, largely Fox News. But he's a 91-year-old. And, Musk is looking for a point of view. He's long believed that under his previous ownership, Twitter had a left-leaning bias. Some of that proved to be true. I think he also sees that, the conservative audience is always looking for a new platform. And now that many conservatives are maybe upset with Fox News, there's an opportunity. So I think there's some reason to believe that to be true. I think it's premature yet to say that I don't think Rupert Murdoch's really sweating Elon Musk yet.
All right. And if he's not trying to necessarily replace Murdoch, let's say, what do you think Elon Musk is trying to do here?
I think he's trying to create a place that, he's trying to build his business, right? He's trying to sell Teslas and rocket drama to conservatives who long thought Tesla's forever was sort of a progressive car, right? It was a smart car. And I think he's just trying to build his brand. Now, the Spaces launch on Wednesday with Ron DeSantis was billed as this big deal. And I think it's fair to say that that was pretty disastrous and that did not go well. And there's a lot of reporting that the DeSantis campaign was privately upset. And Elon Musk, I also know that they cut the Spaces, the engineering team that oversee the Spaces from 100 people to 3 people, or roughly 3 people. So there's reasoning, there's smart cuts to be made in his budgeting. Not all of them pay off. So I think Musk is just trying to build an audience towards it, to the conservative base. I will say, though, that if he's trying to push to a very conservative point of view, that leaves some space for moderation, right? People in the middle that aren't looking for a left or right. Some people don't want to be preached to as a choir, as we see on some liberal or conservative outlets.
So if this maybe is more of a marketing move, why do you think some conservatives like DeSantis using Twitter to make big announcements, why are they jumping on board and helping with that?
I think Elon Musk has successfully portrayed himself as a sort of conservative hero, right? He's arguing for free speech, First Amendment hero. And who doesn't get behind that, particularly if you believe that there has been some sort of big tech censorship, of which there's lots of evidence. I don't know if there's proof, but there's lots of evidence that went on in the name of trying to protect truth. So I think Ron DeSantis did that so that he could align himself with Elon Musk and try to sort of build his base of supporters and try to draw a distinction between Trump. I think Tucker Carlson sees it as he's got a ton of money. I think he sees it as an awesome opportunity. And I think Ben Shapiro and Daily Wire think that they also would rather be on Twitter than, YouTube, which is owned by Google. So I think Elon Musk is being smart by sort of, taking the opportunity to collecting some loud and very influential voices on the conservative side. Will that come at the expense of progressive users or moderates? Who knows? I think we tend to overlook the political point of view. Twitter is sort of a utility that people will always go and look at. I don't see other social media outlets, whether it's the liberal Blue Sky or Truth Social. I'm not sure that they're ready to compete just yet. So I think Elon Musk is, he's got a lot of work cut out for him, but he's in a good spot right now.
So moving forward, Colby, how do you think all of these factors are going to be reshaping the media landscape? And I hate to toss this to you with 30 seconds left, but that's about all the time we have.
I wish I had the answer to that. I think, I think AI is the biggest concern right now about how, writers and editors are going to go by the wayside. And that's a scary prospect for those of us who are writers or editors, but I think a human connection and a smart point of view will always win the day, as is fair speaking, without fear of favors to others, and a modern point of view, not unlike NewsNation.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.